Okay. Hello, everyone. I wanted to speak about an idea called have you noticed people are not being just a shape? And so I've written temporary nouns inside an eternal verb. So pretty much I'm going to focus on these 2 points here. Views. So first thing is I'm going to bring the notepad. There we go. So 2 components, temporary noun, temporary nouns inside an eternal verb. Okay, so what am I trying to take the viewer's attention here, really? To be honest, think of it this way. I was someone raised in a theocratical society when I was born in a theocratical country. Theocracy means religion and politics are, in some sense, infused. And so at a young age, whether I liked it or not, anybody who's just raised in a religious environment, just at a young age, just like you're a child being born in the world, and then waves of information hit you as you go through your lifetime. So the first wave of information that hit me was, in some sense, how do I make sense of the behavior of the people in my environment? And I realized that when it comes to the difference between the behavior of a bird and the behavior of a human being, the bird is being at most responsible for itself and its children, right? But when you look at the human being has developed a consciousness of its species, okay? That is very fascinating. That's very different than just a bunch of lions in a forest. That's all the lions in the world suddenly like roaring at the same time. That's the power of the internet. You know, I'm a being that I feel that whatever world I have found my conscious attention in, I have been seeking the victory of victories endlessly. The victory of victories is a transcendental idea. And so it's fair to say that even though we're all in one world, we take it as that, but in actuality, we're not in one world. There are different beings, and the type of being you are suggests the access to the world you have. So really what's going on here, it's like, imagine we come down here and we're like, what is going on in life? Like, really? So what we discover is that there seems to be, and this is of course 1 in 8 billion of an opinion, First of all, dear viewers, this is a very blessed opportunity for me. You know, sometimes I think about it. Out of all my ancestors, I was the one born in the first generation, right, out of the lineage of just my DNA, you know, to in some sense speak to the whole planet. What I'm trying to say is, what is going on in life? Like, really, there seems to be an unknown world. Every unknown sourced conscious entity is in. So what is the attitude? The first approach is like, yo, everybody is somewhere. Everybody as the yo, everybody is somewhere. Yo, it's you know what's funny? Like, there's gonna be a generation, like in like thousands of years from now, they're gonna see the philosophers of 2020, right, 2023, and they're gonna be like, yo, they're gonna be like, why did our ancestors say the word, the letters YO so much? Do you know? Why did they say YO so much? You know, this world of ours, people are living in a state where I feel that, you know, one day in the future I'm going to dedicate, you know, to create one of the greatest documentaries on religions ever. One documentary that will in some sense, you know, bridge the gaps. You know what it is, guys? As a person lives in life and as expressions take place, expressions activate patterns. The idea that you are not just a physical being is the suggestion that there are patterns prior to your manifestation in this conscious world of recognition of patterns. So think of it this way: everybody is in an unknown world. So think of it this way: everybody is in an unknown world. Therefore, every consciousness can get to see what it is, what it can get to know something. You know, there are human beings who are like, God, the world is too big. Did you create it for us? You know, and then there's some human beings who realize the world is created for man. But it is not created for the man that is alive now. It is not created for this force that we see now. However, each entity, based on the type of attention it has or is, accesses its specific world. So what this means, guys, is that we are actually never seeing the real world we're in. That's, believe it or not, it falls into Mysterianism, and it's a bit impossible. Okay? You know, I hope to see the day when, you know, the greatest philosophers of our species are walking alongside Mr.Within trying to solve these problems. You know, I always found it interesting, you know, that there's something they say. I was reading this was a while ago. Somebody had written this, like, genius PhD student, I don't know the guy's name, but he'd written an incredible thesis on the discrimination between polytheism and multitheism. Theism has to do with the divine, with truth, and polytheism means truth is multivariant, it's multi-dimensional, and in some sense monotheistic means in some sense truth is singular. Source truth is singular in a monotheistic sense. We think that people are believing in the world. Wrong. People are creating rooms where they can be where they can animate as a person subjectively. For me, it's more like, let me tell you what it is. Even though in the outer realms, in front of our eyes, we're all on the same rock, like we have nowhere to go, in our inner realms, we need advanced communicators to go find everybody who's lost in their inner realms and immediately allow them to, in some sense, cultivate mastery. So this is the idea. Everybody starts in their own world. Anybody who acts like they see something that is more than just their own world is a bit, let me tell you, meaning is a personal act, but seeing is an impersonal act. Do you understand? That means when you see a tree, seeing the tree it doesn't have anything to do with being a person, you thinking you're a person or not, but what the tree means requires your personhood. Requires an individual self to start it all. What I'm saying here is that it's so fascinating because it's like based on the levels we see types of worlds. So I'll come here and say, let's say there are 3 levels to look at life through. Okay? So what are these levels? Okay, we have level 1. If you're a gamer, a mystic is someone who has become has become a gamer of life. They have realized life is a game, but it is a game where there is limitations and meaning because the person is animating it, but there's also the limitless standing before us. So it's so weird. From the macro position, we're limited, can't do anything. From the micro position, we can do infinite things in relation to the macro. So level 1 in this world, hilariously, is the visible map, is the visible level. Okay, so level 1 is the visible level, and I'm speaking as a mystic, meaning that I'm treating you, whoever you are listening, I don't know who you are, and you don't really know who I am. I mean, you know certain things about me, but I'm trying to tell you that I'm treating you as if you just logged into a video game, but instead of the video game being, the video game is made of pixels. Instead of being made of pixels, it's made of the periodic table. So I'm treating human beings that are being born in this world as those beings that have entered the game, that have entered this game called LIFE. Do you know? It's like, yo man, have you played the game LIFE? And the person's like, yo bro, every day, every moment, I'm playing this game. So level 1, the visible level, means what do you have access? I'll say so. Let me say it this way. Visible level means objects, movement of objects, and ultimately awareness of objective world. There we go. That's pretty good. Guys, I think there's so many people actually watching this live stream. That I think YouTube is glitching and it's just showing 0 viewers. I think it's probably 1 million people watching right now. I had this friend, she would say, I'm listening to you in the ethers, and I would say thanks, but I'd appreciate if you go share a video, Anyways, to continue in this incredible, mysterious world we're all in. So level 1, the visible level. Objects, movement of objects. Here, maybe it's better. So level 1, visible level, objects, movement of objects, awareness of objective world. What else can I say about it? So what I have realized is this is where science, first of all, guys, science and religion cannot be compared, even though some people compare. Like I remember I saw this video, right? Where there was this, like, you know, girl who went to Richard Dawkins, and she was like, yo, aren't you starting an atheistic religious movement? Isn't it the same thing that you're doing the same thing? Like, just like Christians were converting people to Christianity, this girl, Christian girl, had gone to Richard Dawkins and was like, yo, aren't you converting, like, do you know, everybody to, like, you know, non-Christianity, you know? And so, there was an answer, a sort of battle took place, like a Pokemon battle took place, you know, each of them throwing their next Pokeballs. That's, I mean, a philosophical debate is the closest thing to a Pokemon, real life Pokemon battle, by the way. You know, a debate, like. So anyways, this is why they can't be compared. Science, and in some sense, one, because science came ahead and did something ingenious, but let me say it this way: we gotta separate human beings from their tools and from what they use. If we don't separate people from what they use, we value them in a dehumanized way, with dehumanized inaccuracy. So the reason science and religion, it's like the tools, like a hammer and a wrench are like different tools, you know? They both have their truth in accordance to being activated in accordance to the purpose of their design. One can even make the argument that in some sense, every person's DNA being different means that they're being something that cannot be compared to something else. The reason science and religion, I gotta get this out, oh my god. The reason science and religion can't be compared is because science is a method and religion is in some sense more like a narrative. Do you understand? One is in the sense of focused on the character's destiny, but from the scientific point of view, scientists don't even have to be moral. You know, like if somebody says, is a great scientist moral? If somebody asks me, like, you know, let's say there's a scientist that is like has no morality but is just obsessed with science, then let's say there's some scientist who has morality but is also like interested in science, obsessed about science. So I would say the one who doesn't have morality is technically is theoretic is like technically the better scientist, right? Why? Because that person is doing it for the sake of the science, to see what will happen. You see, scientists are explorers. Any person who really wants to do something important in this world will at some point realize they have to go where no one else has gone before. You either try to be like the past or you go and find your own mountain. I got a vision once I got such a bizarre like, I don't know if it was a daydream or I had it in a dream, but I think it was a day, it was during the day. Just an inner vision where I was on top of this like peak, like small hill. Then the hill started to extend just from where my foot was to like going above and above and above to like the clouds or something. Imagine this like thin, like this kind of like narrowing line of like a mountaintop, and it was like so bizarre. It's like it was like a mountain you couldn't climb down from, but it was endlessly going to top, you know, going up. So science is a method, is a very important method, and it's pretty cool. And the coolest thing about science is not what we know, that's basic, it's what we don't know. This is why we live. This is why it's cool to wake up every day. This is why when my mind, I'll tell you, there was a time where I had to put my own mind in check. Okay? And let me tell you what I mean. There was a time where I noticed my mind, like it was as if my mind was trying to sabotage me. My own mind. Okay? And when I was younger, I was alarmed by this, as I would experience my karma. But then I reached a point where I saw something so beyond the self that beyond myself that my mind was bothering, that it's everything suddenly silenced. People don't understand. All of our suffering is coming from the first fear. There is a domino fear, and this might sound bizarre, and people may say this is controversial, Mr. Within, what I'm saying, but I'm telling you how I am telling you the most important attitude shift in my own life, where death changed from an ending and a stop sign to a door. And for the first time, I was like, yo, life makes sense. Because if we think of life to have meaning just in the present, it becomes meaningless, bizarre. But if we think that we are in a if we're in a preparation phase, that means you are not in the actual world. It's like we're in the cocoon. We're like in the cocoon, and we have a sense we're going to be a butterfly, but we don't know. And then all the other butterflies are like half-faith caterpillars, you freaking, you know, like naive, like freaking out for no reason caterpillars, you know, lesser dimensional caterpillars. You know, I'm going to create a story right now. Let's say one day a caterpillar went up to a butterfly, a very insecure and miserable caterpillar. And then there was an old butterfly there, and the miserable caterpillar climbed like the highest like branch and got to the one where the oldest butterfly was on the shortest branch because it was too tired to fly to the highest. And so this caterpillar comes to the branch of like this flower or something, and then sees a butterfly there, and they have a conversation. The caterpillar says, "Oh, wise butterfly, I feel incomplete. I feel I don't understand where I am. I feel I am in some sense sometimes condemned or banished, or I feel I have done something wrong that I've forgotten. I don't know why I am being here. I don't know why God has created a world where we are designed to notice our death." Do you understand? Like it's as if and the caterpillar keeps saying, I don't understand. I don't understand why I have so many legs, but I'm so small. I don't understand why life is this right now. And the butterfly starts laughing. The butterfly starts laughing, and even like some butterflies in the distance come to ninja listen. The butterfly looks at the caterpillar, and says to the caterpillar, "Ask yourself, why are you upset really?" The butterfly says, "Ask yourself what is wrong with being what you are right now. Ask yourself how many caterpillars have not been born yet. Ask yourself how many caterpillars have not come this far yet. You know, ask yourself how many, what happens to all the caterpillars. Ask yourself not just where you were, you know, who you were, where you are now, what you are, but who you will be. It is the greatest privilege of our destiny. Do you understand? We are allowed to see what will happen to us. When we were unconscious in nature, stuff was happening, creatures were coming and going, and nobody was realizing it because the creature was unconsciously being moved by the environment. Something has allowed this self to move the environment, but it hasn't allowed it to completely, like I can't raise my hand and have, like, you know, a still pond take the shape of the water and a still pond to take the shape of my hand, right? I don't have that kind of ability, but I could do that in my mind, which is another way of saying the world was moving me, then the self came to move the world. But it was like if somebody trying to push a building, so the self created a miniature version of the world in language and started moving that and treated that as real. Do you understand? We had no choice to make the world into a subjective linguistic story-like illusion because we could not go beyond the real. The unknown was just too unknown. Creatures were like, yo, what is this? Where are we? Nothing makes sense. Let's tell ourselves a story. Do you know? So this awareness to geometry. So when it comes to, so first of all, science is a very important method. Okay, this song's kind of next level. Oh my god, this song is gonna be too fast. I could just feel it. This song's gonna. Okay, whatever. Okay. Alright. So, science is a very important method. Why is science very important? Because it is a strategy to the void. Everything has value if you're smart, but nothing has value if you don't care. You understand? There's actually no such thing as smart or stupid people. There's just interested and disinterested people. Anything you're disinterested in, you are accepting your own foolishness. Anything you're interested in, you're allowing yourself to learn. And what does learning mean? I mean, as a kid, like teachers, like, do you understand the idea of learning has such a heavy connotation for 90s kids? You know? You don't understand, like, how many parents have shouted at their kids, study, goddammit, study! You know, and the kid's like, I'm reading it, I don't know what's going on. You know, I'll tell you something hilarious, you know? When I was younger, you know, I don't know why I would read and it would take so long and everybody would be like, read it slower, and I'd read it slower and it just, like, I'd eventually get bored and at my attention go to like the window or something, you know. And then I realized my problem was I was reading too slow. And then I started to read as fast as I can, trying to actually, like, it's like I know how speed you can, like, I know how to speed read, okay? And pretty much I decided to read so fast that I could see a film when I read a book. And you know, there was a time where I was like, Cosmos, why have you opened my inner realms? Why have you reminded me of how the universe was before I was? And you know what I realized? We do not belong to the ego. The idea of ourself does not even own itself when the idea of self is codependent to the world. Everything needs to be here so you can consider nothing. O nihilists, O those in anguish, or all those in the desolate wastelands of in some sense an unnecessary nothingness. We are here now, the soul of the living world. From the soil have sprouted 8 billion pilots. Oh man. sometimes I'm like, yo, somebody, slow hand clap for the periodic table. Imagine somebody, went to the store and the guy's like, yo, man, do you have this kind of table, that table? And the person's like, I got every kind of table you want. And the person's like, do you have the periodic table? And the guy thought for a moment and he's like, yeah, man. He's like, where? Can I see it? And the person's like, yeah, it's everywhere. Oh, man. So science is a very important method to stabilize to just like a blacksmith. Okay, science is literally like a blacksmith metaphor works, okay? Just like there's a sword and the blacksmith's like, yo, apprentice, give me my hammer, and then oh, man. A constant bashing and falsification. This is something I like about science. Science, to me, its symbol should be a hammer. Scientists in the future, they should have like paladin emblem with a picture of a hammer. Do you know why? Because it's a constant repetition and constant updating. Science has done something where it's saying, if we find something better, F you, whatever way we challenged you, we have a new platform now. So science is, because science is a method leading to ideological systems, right? It is in some sense an open system. But religious narratives and ancient holy revelation, these are closed systems. That means it's literally like its own private kingdom. But science is a method to explore the observable, the material kingdom. So level 1. Be aware of how you're an object. Study this. There is no such thing as a teacher, enlightened guru, and if you have a savior in the inner realms, your heart can be open into whatever sort of love that can guide you. I mean, that's fine, right? Whether you want to see like Thor, Iron Man being your spirit guide, you want to see, for example, prophets of religions watching over you, or if you even consider beyond everything, whoever you choose an intermediary or not in the whether you choose an interdimensional intermediary or not, there are some beings who are like, who is the author of this reality? Who holds the pen of how every single moment is being structured and designed? You see, it's not just the fascination of what is designed in the void, it's how it's coming about every moment. It's live, it's like eternity is live streaming, endless creatures appearing in the void, experiencing temporary processes. And it's as if, why is energy living to die to itself? And then this is where the mystery of consciousness is like, yo, another hidden room, or the mystery of the meaning of our beliefs is a revolving door between the known and the unknown. Aldous Huxley has this next level quote. Oh my God, he says, there are things known and things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. And dear humanity, we are at the doors of perception. We are not just a physically capable species. You can close your eyes, and without light entering your eyes, you can still see. You can literally, you have an ability to access an invisible art studio called imagination. At the same time, within this invisible art studio, you have time traveling abilities, but not time traveling in the sense of the future. You have a time traveling ability of remembering the past, of evoking the past, like a file cabinet, taking any file you want at any moment from your mind. There was a story about Napoleon Bonaparte, this French emperor, and all the people around him were in awe, shocked, because this guy was some genius savant or something, because in it he would have not only the ability to sleep like a robot any moment he wanted and wake up exactly the exact time, like he didn't need an alarm clock, he would automatically wake up exactly when he needed to. And when people asked him, how do you think about things, Napoleon would say he sees this, he had this giant like wooden drawer in his mind, and everything about the kingdom and his empire he had classified in a drawer system in his imagination, in his inner realms. That's how an emperor did it back then. Now you, dear humanity, are in 2023. The way you can understand your inner realms is not by trying to go after it with the presumption of belief, but rather try to wonder, if you don't do anything, what moves? Like this is really true metaphysicalism, okay? Like this is what a metaphysicist does, which is hilariously very Taoistic. Action through inaction. The idea is, if you do something, let's say somebody, tries to contact like an interdimensional being, Guys, I got a strange vision right now, that there's going to be a giant interstellar city in the future, shaped and colored like a red and white candy cane, in outer space, called Candy Cania. Talking about like, a couple thousand years from now, yeah. So, okay, level 1. Sorry guys, I'm stalling here. Level 1, visible level. Objects, movement, all object awareness of the objective world. Science is a very important method to stabilize our perceptions in reality. However, science must find the capability to philosophically reconstitute itself contextually or it will be forgotten. This means that, I'll explain what I mean here. It means that if the future generations are headed to a point where they become more emotional and irrational in their decision making, and cyberspace allows us to really truly go after our desires in a fantasy or virtual fantastic fashion, right? People are going to stop caring for science. Why? Because they're going to get bored of being human. And also AI is probably going to do everything, right? So we have to be in a sort of situation right now where we have to connect all ideological systems before super intelligent computers activate. This is the grand vision of School of Athens 2.0, trying to assemble all philosophers, all great visionaries in the world, to in some sense try to create the tree of knowledge, actually. And I have created a system, this is my vision, where I was like, what is the smartest way if I was to create an educational system? If I wanted to teach my child, if I wanted to teach my child like everything about the world, what would the best way be? I thought about it, and then I thought about all the children in the future generations. I thought about it like not only my own child in the future, not only like all the children alive, not only all the children who will be alive, but what is the greatest way to, against all odds and challenges in the future, what is the most genius way that we can save all human ideology and knowledge in the upcoming, let's say, technological, it's like we're reaching a dehumanized point. The dehumanized threshold of humanity is probably 30 years away. In 30 years, we're going to suddenly notice options are coming for us to stop behaving like humans. Technological, maybe. So I was thinking, what's the most genius? And then suddenly, just like somebody finding somebody suddenly like finding a crack in a wall where there's light coming through, I suddenly saw it. It has to be through biology. We have to get philosophers and psychologists and everybody to help everybody in the medical practice to attach and connect. So what this means is you have 5 fingers. So I want children by the age of middle school, by the time they get to middle school, having as much knowledge, having as much knowledge about medical science, about medicine, and not everything, just having medical knowledge that in some sense a doctor, somebody who paid a ridiculous amount of money, like how can I tell you, like I want our children of the planet to have an incredible biological awareness rather than just thinking they're an idea and going in the world and not knowing what's happening. Okay, and then I was like, if we can somehow, like the metaphor, if we can use the metaphor of the biological bodies, all organs of the body, that means imagine all Vedanta and all ideologies associated to love connect to the organ of the heart. Do you understand? I'm pretty much trying to say, if we create a genius system where we make children learn the biological system, and by learning the biological system, we have connected the symbolism of the design of the biological system to all ideological systems in the future, therefore creating the new tree of knowledge for the future generations. But this tree of knowledge will not end, because that means in order to understand human knowledge, you have to be a biological human form till the end of time. In order for us to be understood, all the species, all the beings in our environment must protect our humanness in order to understand us. Do you understand? Because we are creatures that, like, it's so bizarre. You know, I was like, yo, you know, let's say there were invisible, like, let's say malevolent extraterrestrials just everywhere in the skies or something. I was like, why aren't they attacking, for example? Hypothetically, playfully, right? You know? And for a second, I was like, because they don't understand us until they can become us. Do you see what the idea of possession is? I wondered why a non-physical being should possess a physical being when all the physical beings are trying to get enlightened and become non-physical. So I was like, yo, why are the invisible possessing the visible, and why aren't the visible trying to be freed into the invisible? And it was as if, like, it was a shock. It was as if I heard the cosmos scream. Oh my god. Guys, I think I could go into, start a water factory with all the tears I have right now. Oh my god, guys, we're still at level 1. I'm stalling so much. Oh my god. Okay, let's go. Let's go to level 2. I'll fill up level 1 if I remember points right. So what is level 2? Level 2 is the invisible level. And this is hilariously for young souls, as in like traditional spiritual traditions they would say. All right, so the invisible level, poetically we say this is for like middle-aged souls. It's not something I think they acknowledge. Or another way you can call it is midlife. So this means level 2 means, so you're this creature that's arrived in this world, and you as a baby, like you've learned to move physically, you've learned how to ride a bike, so you've become you've understood how objects and physical movements. That means you've looked at this world and you've noticed the observable point of it. So then we have the invisible level. Now the observable point doesn't just finish. Now this is the cool thing about imagination. Okay, right now, whoever you are, close your eyes and imagine an apple pie floating in the air in front of you. Like, let's say 1/2 meter in the air in front of you, diagonally. So as you visualize this floating apple pie, notice that you can see it. You can see your visualizations when you close your eyes, but you cannot touch it. So if we want to justify, is imagination real based on sight? Yes. But based on density, no. So your inner realms has shape, your mind has shape, even when your eyes aren't open. Can see shape even when your eyes aren't open. That means there's a mind sight. Some people call it the third eye, but they were like, I think they were trying to be like it was Halloween or something. I'm kidding. But the third eye was in some sense like the idea of the mind's eye. Okay, so the mind's eye, what it means is that it's pretty much like in the Upanishads, this ancient text from like thousands of years ago or something. In it says, the seer of the seen is unseen. That means that which is looking through the eyes and seeing something can see everything except itself, which is the one seeing. So the one that is looking cannot see itself, and this renders us as unknown. So all the secular people need to give a break to the spiritual people. Need to relax. Why? Because there's something mysterious about consciousness being an instantaneity of existence and attention. So an experiential attention and an objective existence, a physical existence, are simultaneously being one moment of being. It's very difficult to say if we are one physical being or we are like this. We are like there's a physical self and there's a physical side and there's a non-physical side and there's an awareness to both of them that's keeping them there. That seems to be the more of the mystical angle. So invisible level, this is where some beings come in this life and their task in this life is not per se to be a physical entity. Okay? Like, you could say, for example, me right now, I'm doing level 2 work. Okay? That means like what are the options? You can serve the body of the advanced civilization, or you can serve the mind of the advanced civilization. Serving the body means you go and do stuff in the outer realms. Serving the mind of the advanced civilization means you look at the story the species is telling itself, and there's some people trying to develop the civilization from inside, which are the advanced communicators, and those who are developing civilization from outside, called the pilots of consciousness in Mr.Within terminology. So in this, we're talking about subjects, okay? Now, movement of subjects, this is very important because somebody says, what do you mean movement of subjects? I mean, it's so weird to me how people just so easily think their thoughts. Like somebody comes and says, you're like, hey man, it's like, who are you? And the person's like, I'm this. And they're like, what is that though? And then the person's like, that's a thought, man. That's the thought I have of myself right now. Right? Like we have that attitude, right? In the current culture, that's the sophistication of our speech about our minds. Yo, you're a thought, I'm a thought. Yo, we have thoughts. But the bizarre thing is, how can a thought think? How can an internal lifeless object lead to life? So you see, a thought is an inner object. When I said visualize an apple pie, that's some philosophers would say, yo, internal object, So movement of subjects, this includes language, letters, symbols, and inner films. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to like Goku do an internal Kamehameha. Okay, there we go. So let's speed this up. Subjects, movement of subjects, yes. Then second level means your mind, means you're wondering about your mind. So this is where meditation applies. Meditation doesn't mean you do some weird shit. Meditation means you sit down to watch your whole moment, aka mind, like a cinema film you have never seen before. The idea is for you to see, to truly witness for yourself what your own mind, which only you can see, which only you have access to, is, and how it behaves. Meaning, does your mind move gently or roughly? Or does your mind move simply or complexly? Does your mind move slow or fast? Does your mind move consciously? Are you conscious when you move, or does it move unconsciously? Like, there was a time where I dabbled in unconscious speech. And what I mean by this is I would wake up early in the mornings inspired by Salvador Dali's surreal, painting style, Do you know? And early on, I would wake in the morning, and I remember I would sit on a chair, and I would put another chair in front of like my chair. They were I had two chairs in my room, in front of my like bed. And so I would wake up still in my pajamas, put my laptop, what do you call it? Put my laptop on one of the chairs and sit on one of the chairs, and then I would just start recording myself, and I would just, talk and just see what comes to my mind. And I would remember, because it was in the morning, because I was sleepy, I had no preference. When you wake up early in the morning, it's as if your mind doesn't have an opinion yet. It's like, yo, is this the day? Is it beginning now? So these dualities are important. What else? How else can the mind move in the invisible level? Okay, here, concept. So conceptually or contextually. What does that mean? It means like doership compared to being, or another way of saying this, it could be, it's kind of like a repeat, but static and dynamic. Do you see what I'm getting at here, dear viewers? The idea is for level 2, if you want to complete level 2 of life, level 2 when it comes, let's say, to, in this lecture's mystical context, level 2 is completed once you realize. So here, I'll here. Level 1 is completed Level 1 is completed when an object realizes it's moving as an inner subject before it follows up through the objective event. So this means an object noticed it's a subject. So anybody, this is basic pretty much, right? Anybody who looks in the mirror and you notice like there's a physical representation of you, but what is aware that's a reflection of you in the mirror is your inner self, right? But the inner self, we have this idea of the ego, sure, and I'll point to Freud in a second, but Alan Watts gave an incredible view of the ego, and he's like, your ego is pretty much the sense of self that, like an Iron Man suit, the sense of self your attention is to in the moment. So if you think you're a good person in the moment, you have an ego of a good person. If you think you're an angel, you have the ego of an angel. If you think you're a demon, you have the ego of a demon. Do you understand? It's as if here's the hilarious thing when it comes to the soul. The soul can... It's like... okay, I'll get to it later. Let me just get through level 2. So level 2, this is something very interesting. Objects also, I would come here and say it's a singular existence. That's what you're becoming aware of. Singular existence. That means all of existence is existing at the same time in a manner of like a live stream fashion. Or energies being existence instantaneously. So if that's a singular existence, level 2 is a dualistic experience. So this is also like reached an awareness of duality. Now this, we come here and say reached an awareness of okay, let's keep it there. So yeah, so level 1, what is the idea? A child, like I'm just like from an aerial view trying to look at this. Level 1, the creature noticed it's an object. It had to come to a contentment with like, okay, it's a physical, biochemical situation we're in, you know. So in level 1, it's like survival, existential, singular, like existential survival is the key. That's very important. Now, just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, maybe I could bring this into this. And Freud talked about like the mind kind of like an iceberg where there's the conscious, pre-conscious, and like the unconscious, right? So right now, me speaking, this is like the tip of the iceberg, and then there's my like pre-conscious, and then there's like the deeper aspects of like really what the essence of my being and what the essence of all being is. So level 2 is just an awareness that you're not a subject. So reach an awareness that you are not just an object. And then we come and reach an awareness you are not just a subject. Okay, then we go to level 3 finally. Oh my god, is this happening? Oh my god, oh my god. So level 3 is the inconceivable. Or here, instead of this, I could say old souls. Let's just honor the traditional thing. The inconceivable level is interesting because in level 1 there is still a mysterious individual free will. In level 2 there's still an individual free will. In level 1 you're noticing there's something that's moving the body. In level 2 you're noticing alongside there's something moving the body. Before the body moves, your mind can create the event of the body moving. That means imagine you become thirsty suddenly and your mind gets instantaneously a vision that you've gone to the fridge and opened the fridge and grabbed like a bottle of water. Do you understand? So then you stand up from where you are and you go grab the bottle of water. What does this mean? This means that level 2 awareness. That means you've noticed not just a physical event, you've also noticed a non-physical event. Okay, and the non-physical event is visible but not tangible. This is the key. So level 2 is visible but not tangible. The inner realms. So this means, yeah, exactly, I forgot to put this. The inner realms. And then we come here and we put, Jesus. Here, the outer realms. Now if somebody says, Mr. Within, your name's Mr. Within, so what happens when we go within? And I'll tell you, you get to level 3. Level 3 is very fascinating because level 3, I don't know how to say it. Let me see what I could write here. It's level 3 is when the free will has understood the limitations of singular objective existence and dualistic subjective experience. Okay, so when the free will, this whatever intelligence you are, notices, understands the limits of, okay, so it's like a singular existential event happening, right? But then we, as our consciousness, our brains, due to their inability to be the whole world, so they have to simulate a sort of version of it. So by that nature, they rent the self that is separated from the world is dualistic by nature, by design. So this means that level 2 was like you suddenly noticed, okay, so this is hilariously, it's like noticing level, it's like this would be the equation: level 1 plus level 1 plus level 2 plus question mark. Now this is level 3 means you suddenly notice, you thought you were struggling between trying to align yourself as the right idea to the right outer event. That means it's like we're trying to synchronize our own personal worlds, inner realms, with how the outer realms actually is, right? In level 1, there was an objective idea about it. So when the free will has understood the limitations of singular objective existence and dualistic subjective experience, and has noticed it's noticing them, it's knowing them at the same time, simultaneously. When the free will has understood the limitations of singular objective existence and dualistic subjective experience, and had noticed its knowing that at the same time. So when the free will has understood the limitations of the singular objective existence, so you're like, yo, it's just like, okay, there's an existential game to play. Then you realize there's a psychological game to play, and the psychological game you're playing is that you're a character in a world of your own choice. Like, that's the point of being an individual, right? So many young people may not know what it means to be an individual, but an individual means at some point you look at this world, you realize like there's mortality. We're all going to the unknown. Everybody's headed to the unknown, and we're going to death's door, everybody, right? But the cool thing is we're all here together. So it's kind of like something needs to happen. Like, it's like there's an upcoming great performance of humanity. Do you understand? So, in the inconceivable level, the free will has understood the limitations of singular objective existence and dualistic subjective experience, and had noticed its knowing that at the same time. And realizes it's aware of It's aware of knowing them both at the same time. The context, the world story suddenly shifts. What does it shift to? What does it shift to? This is where the free will that has tried to use objects and subjects to figure out what it is suddenly wonders if what it is has what it actually is has nothing to do with what it is now. So that's what I'm trying to say. So the inconceivable level is dehumanized. So level 3, so this level is dehumanized. Why? This level is dehumanized because the free will has realized it cannot surpass its limitations by itself, because itself is the limitations, is defined out of the limitations. It's like, oh my god, it's like saying a being has realized it's individual because of objects and subjects, but if it cannot use objects, oh my god, objects and subjects to subjects, but if it cannot use objects and subjects to figure out what is beyond, oh my god. So it's like saying a being has realized it's individual because of objects and subjects, but So what I'm saying is, it's like saying a being is realized. It's individual because of objects and subjects, but if it cannot use objects and subjects to figure out what it is beyond them, since when we go beyond subject, there is no truth seeker or shaped self. The thing about objects and subjects is that they both have shape. What links imagination to reality is its shape, its geometry, actually. This is why geometry is sacred, because it's how our inner realms are interacting with the outer realms, or how the outer realms communicate to our inner realms. It's so fascinating when you realize all knowledge is shapes, geometry moving in the void. So far, where's this going? Right? So the level 3 is so it's like saying a being is real, but if it cannot use objects to figure out what it is beyond them, it will. It needs the unknown to authorize what the known can't, what the known cannot. So level 3 is, these beings are like, how would I say it? These beings are not even shaped. It's like, imagine there's some beings here in like really just here to have a physical material life, and then there's some beings who they've reached a point where they're not an object, just an object to themselves anymore, and they're not just a subject to themselves anymore, and the whole moment has become the divine will, right? This is the whole point of like mysticism. Like the point of like polytheism, right? That the divine could be seen in everything that the divine had created, right? So level 3 is an inconceivable state, and this means, here I'll say it here. Once you realize, once you realize you did not create the world, you realize you cannot figure out the world alone. So a realignment of self-role occurs. It means that this is literally something I experienced, where I was like, wait a minute, it's like I'm struggling to understand this whole existence is because I didn't create it. Now let's, for the sake of contextual, for the sake of philosophy, let's just theology, let's consider for a second that this world has a creator, right? And I'm not debating about the origin of the creator and all of that. I'm just for a second looking at the effect. And imagine a person looks at this world, a religious person, and they're like, yo, I didn't create this world, so why should I be responsible for it? And this is where you realize you're responsible for what is in your consciousness, in your awareness, as a being, as your whole moment. But the parts you can't go, you in some sense wait. So level 3 is when, here I'll write it, an individual is no longer moving itself, and now a collective moment, a collective is moving the individual in a way that to the collective is timeless, and to the individual is the flows of destiny. That's what happens when you live a collective life. You don't fear. See, it's like you fear what you don't understand. This has been the case. Anytime anybody has fear, let's say somebody has a fear of spiders, you gotta literally go read everything about spiders. You gotta go research spiders. I'm telling you. Because once you understand something, the context that you were extracting an emotion from shifts. The subjective inner context. Anyways. So this is level 3. And then somebody's like, Mr.Within, where is level 4? And level 4 is literally like... Imagine I say level 4 brings you back. No, I'm kidding. It's like the 4 seasons. No, I'm kidding. So level 4. So this is when I gotta write one more thing here. When man is no longer trying to move God, so God can now move man. This is the point. This is level 3. Level 3. This is why it's dehumanized, because it is the divine. It's the divine moving, not the human idea. So this means that it's God. So in level 3, it's God's life. Okay, that means it's not your life. It's God's life, not man's life. Okay, in level 2, it can be man's life. It can be man's life. And then, it's optional, but the caterpillar either becomes a butterfly or it dies, right? Like what else happens? I don't know. Somebody who works at, Animal Planet, reach out. I'm going to actually interview a lot of people who communicate to animals in the future. That's actually genius. I think I got to do that. It's like, hey man, do crocodiles have emotions? And the person's like, I don't know, I sometimes feel when I tickle them, they laugh. So, level 4 is, level 3 is, I forgot him right here. So if somebody says, Mr.Within, you've talked about the inner realms, the outer realms, then what's watching both of them? What would you call that? The inner realms, the outer realms. I got it. The witnessing realms. The witnessing realms. There we go. So with the witnessing realms, you're not an object or subject. You're watching everything as an unknown. Pretty much, it's like you were a known self in a known world, so you were experiencing life dualistically. But once you realize you're an unknown self in an unknown world, the unknown is the same. The known was different, the knowledge was different, but the unknown is the same. So it's as if level 3. It's like you're living, it's hilarious. Technically, you're living as an unknown being, but an unknown being has become the movement of all life. Something like that, I guess. I don't know. Then we go to level 4, and level 4 is, in some sense, I would say, It's beyond the language threshold. The language threshold is a concept I've coined, meaning that we've reached a point where an object and subject cannot translate an experience or miniaturize it for the human comprehension. So beyond the language threshold means here means non-conceptual reality. That's it. What that means is it's like unknown error or glitch in the system, in the video game, in the elemental video game. Oh my god. Imagine in the future, like there's this camera, like old school projector that advanced AI has made it animate, right, with a personality. And imagine a human being is arguing with an old school camera, but the camera has, like, through AI become alive and, like, whatever, right? And so the person's like, yo man, I'm a CEO, what are you? And the person's like, you kidding me, man? I'm a video. I'm a VIDO, man. What are you? Sorry guys, silly joke. Anyways, so it's just unknown. So it's another way of saying this. This is what I'm saying. This is what level 4 means, guys. Whoever can interpret this sacred thing I'm writing here, you know. So there we go. Quick intermission, guys. Okay. That was a super quick intermission. So there's one more thing to talk about here. So temporary nouns inside an eternal verb. How are we being a temporary noun? I should have rephrased this, guys. How are we being a temporary noun? Maybe I should have rephrased this as just like an oops moment, but like temporary. I mean, I could see multiple ways to write this. Okay, so temporary nouns inside an eternal verb, temporary verbs inside an eternal noun. An argument can be made for both of these. I couldn't write both of these in the subtitle, but in the sentence, title episode, but here, I'm writing it here. Here, actually, maybe I could write it here. Okay. So how are we being a temporary... I'll look at both of these. How are we being a temporary noun? And then what is an eternal verb? We're being a temporary noun, meaning we are a candle that simulates a glow to life. We are physically temporary, but subjectively a noun to ourselves. So when we have this idea of like who dies, we don't say a verb dies, we say a noun dies, or that person died, or that idea died, or that thing left, or whatnot, you know. What is an eternal verb? An endless, changing, physical, observable. Okay, now we go to temporary verbs inside a noun, inside an eternal noun. To summarize this, it would be me trying to explain the same thing as what's going on in the outer realms, just through this context. So temporary verbs could be like temporary physical creatures. Temporary physical verbs inside a singular, subjective, contextual, inside the context of a singular subjective noun. There we go. And then I've written here, have you noticed people are not being just a shape? Guys, this is what I wrote at the beginning. This was the actual title of the episode. I might actually recorrect the title. Oh my god. Hang on, guys, almost done with the title. Just trying to correct the video for the future generations. There we go. Okay, so have you noticed people are not just being a shape? An object notices it's aware as a subject. Then the subject wonders how it's aware it's being a subject, and realizes it's observing the subject and object beyond them. Therefore, if before knowledge, which is objects plus subjects, now was the user, now knowledge has become when I say knowledge, this is another way of saying like the known. Now knowledge, now knowledge, the known, has become the used. So consciousness is rendered as an unknown, viewing unknown viewer of a self as an unknown self viewing an unknown world, which by the nature of the unknown is no longer a self. So what this means is that, excuse me, excuse me. What this means is that as long as you consider a known self, it's a dualistic experiential relationship. So that means there's like imagine there's like four ways. There's like a known self and a known world, and then there's an unknown self and an unknown world. The way we're starting is the way we're conditioned, named, and get a personality and become an individual, right? So that's kind of being like a known self. Then we look at our world and civilization, society, and human progress and all of this, and we're like, okay, that's like a known world, right? So the known self and known world are in accordance to human will. But when it goes to the unknown self and unknown world, we're wondering about matters that could surpass the human will, right? It's like so many scientists say the world has no obligation to make sense, and you could say the same sentence: the world has no obligation to be physical. So what I'm saying is, when I'm saying, have you noticed people are not being just a shape? That means you look at it, a shape should act like a artwork in a gallery, right? Like if people were just objects, they should be just statues, right? But we're an objective mechanism, and then this objective mechanism is being controlled. Now, in ancient traditions, I was like, yo, they're saying the soul is neither an object or subject, and it's in some sense inconceivable, you know? And then I was like, yo, how's that possible? How can an inconceivable soul be inside a conceivable world, move in a conceivable world? Then I thought about how my parents had bought me a remote control car when I was a kid. And I remember when I used the remote control of that car, the remote control was in my hand, and I was there, and I suddenly saw a metaphor that the soul is holding the mind outside of the body, from beyond the body. So the mind is like the remote controller, the soul is like the person holding the remote controller, the car moving is the biological body. This is why I'm saying, you know, understanding dispels fear. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. This was a long one. What else can I say? Love this incredible place that we're all trying to figure out what it is. Share, subscribe, comment, like, and join. There's going to be the vision of the human species, the greatness of the human species, the ultimate reason we're all indirectly living for, whether we know it or not. It's as if we are such an advanced species that we can start taking care not of ourselves in the present only, but of also our future. So it's really about, you know, how far you actually care to see. Like, it's actually about how much you care to see how far you can see what this world is actually, understand and see what's going on here before you at some point, you know, leave. I mean, there's nothing to it. I mean, there was a point where I was like, okay, is death bad? Is death good? And I was like, yo, everybody is afraid of something, the somewhere that we're designed to go. Isn't it weird? Like, it's so weird to me, right? Our species has realized there's birth and there's death, right? But in some sense, we fear death because we don't understand life. But when we come to understand life, death is like an inevitable destination. So the idea is to kind of see, like, live life, and death in some sense we're all just walking towards it. I consciously decided, I decided at some point that why am I fearing death? I'm walking towards it every day. It's just, I'm just ignoring it. Everybody is walking towards some sort of ending of this, the capability of this energetic position we're in, right? It's like we're like candles, right? So the candle should not fear its destiny. Because why else does it have a design of performance? Why else is it here? It's here to, it's like more than we're just here to be like an eternal, immortalized image, right? We're actually here to see what is the most advanced. The most advanced view right now, it's going to be in human circle, so we're wondering about what's the most advanced humanized idea, and then we're going to wonder about what's the most advanced dehumanized idea. The most advanced dehumanized idea for now, I would say I think ultimately even, is the idea of God. That's the most advanced dehumanized idea. Okay? When you think of the most advanced humanized idea, the most advanced humanized idea is the most advanced potential of a creature activated while it's being here. That's it. I just want to see an incredibly advanced civilization, or at least we walk towards it now. Civilization 2.0 coming soon to a world near you. Rise, mankind.